And this week on The Quad, we're discussing yet another war. Who knew that in a week everything could fall apart in Syria? And of course, like with every week, lots of scumbags, lots of heroes. Only on JNS, only on The Quad. Welcome back, everybody, on The Quad. And this week we have a special guest with us, Ruthie Blum, columnist, senior contributor to JNS, and co-host with Mark Regev of her own podcast on JNS, Israel Undiplomatic. What a great name. And my co-host, Shoshana Keats-Jaskal, founder of Chokhmat Nashim, elevating Orthodox women's voices and fighting discrimination. Ladies, another week, another war. Yeah. And this one's complicated. This one is really
Who's the good guys?
Who are the good guys?
Who are we rooting for here?
Are there any good guys? What's going on? How did this start? So, Ruthie, you have very strong views on this.
Yeah, you could say that.
And this week, honestly, look, in a way, and we've been talking about this was inevitable because in a way, Sinwar started something on October 7th that he believed was going to be the downfall of the state of Israel and the genocide of the Jewish people. And instead what he started was the downfall of the the Islamic Republic of Iran, one by one. Now, it didn't happen overnight. People thought, Israel, 6-day war, Israel does quick wars, 10 days. And when nothing was happening after 10 days, it's taken us over a year. We've lost so many beautiful boys and girls. We still have 101 hostages there. And so it wasn't quick and it wasn't easy. And our military prowess did not show. We were down. This time last year, we were down. And now, not only did we come back fighting, we've essentially gotten rid of 80% of the capacity of Hezbollah. We've basically disarmed and dismembered Hamas, even though we still don't have our hostages home. We are seeing the dismantlement of the Syrian regime, and Iran is looking pretty weak right now. How do you see all this play out, and what do you think will happen from here on? Is it going to be better or worse?
Okay, well, in retrospect, we might say that it hasn't been going on for a long time, other than the hostages who are living in abominable conditions, those who are still alive, in the dungeons of Hamas. So for them, every minute is like 10 years. And so we can't say it's a short period. But historically, if we look back now from where we were 14 months ago, almost 15 months ago, you can say, actually, given what we've accomplished, it is a short period of time. Because I'll tell you, as you say, this is the 6-day war. We've had many incursions into Gaza. We've had other wars in Lebanon, etc. But here's the thing. We never finished the job in Gaza. Now, what does that mean?
A few times. Like
a few times.
Yes.
So how can you finish a job if you just go in, have a ceasefire, come out? You could have said, and I did at the time, especially having sons fighting in those wars, etc., that if you don't finish the job, A, the soldiers died in vain. B, it's like, okay, when is the next time it's going to happen, etc. So I would say in some ways, this is a short period of time this happened. And of course, I don't want to give Sinwar credit for anything, but we really do have to acknowledge if you're looking at not only global realities, but I mean, even God realities. There's something unbelievable about the fact that he started this. As you said, he thought he'd wipe out Israel, but actually it was almost like
he brought his own
stepped in. He brought on his own
and the Iranians.
The Iranians. Yeah. Now, how I see this playing out in Syria, I don't know. But one thing is that I could say all along this war, I kept being skeptical at every stage.
About what?
I'll tell you. So when we were first traumatized by October 7th, then we attacked from the air and the ground incursion wasn't happening. And it wasn't happening. I was saying, why aren't we going in? Why aren't we going in? Why aren't we going in? All right, then we went in. And each time there was another thing. Why aren't we going into Rafah? Why aren't we going into Philadelphia? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we? And each time we did it. And I said, okay, from now on, I'm going to be a little more patient. This is what I want to say about Syria. What we've done, by the way, I said that about the ceasefire in Lebanon. I said, this is really bad. we haven't accomplished everything we wanted to, and we haven't whatever. And they said, no, but it's good. We're severing Hezbollah from Hamas. Now we have a better chance of getting the hostages out. But I thought, oh no, that's like we're almost winning in Lebanon, and now
why did we not finish the job like Gaza?
And ceasefire. So I was disappointed. But then I said, okay, just take a deep breath for a minute. And then just as that happened, the rebels attacked the Assad regime. So I'm saying what we're looking at is this chessboard that is, now, I'm not saying that we could have anticipated it, and we should have. By the way, again, we were taken by surprise. As we were on October 7th, we were taken by surprise by Syria. And not only us, everybody was taken by surprise.
It happened so fast.
It happened so fast.
After 15 years of war.
Right. But you see, that's what happens often. Yeah. It's like with the Soviet Union.
Yes,
it's slowly, and then overnight it happens. It's like, whoa, nobody expected the Soviet Union to fall. Suddenly it was,
yeah.
So, but I'm saying with Syria, the one thing that encourages me, and I don't know what's going to happen long term, is that we said, okay, no more nice guy. Now we are taking out all the missiles. We have to go after their chemical weapons. We are not going to let them be armed with Assad's arms. So there, I feel better. I didn't trust that the ceasefire in Lebanon, that we would actually do what we promised, which is to any violation would be met with tough force. Yeah. I didn't believe it, and I was wrong.
The first night or the second night, they sent a missile, and we just went for it.
Exactly. So I said, okay, thank God. Now I'm less skeptical.
I mean business.
Exactly. We mean business. And now what I'm waiting for, of course, is Iran, a direct attack on Iran's nuclear facilities, or perhaps an assassination or two, whatever it requires. But the point is that all of this now is making me have a little more patience to see what's going to pan out. It is true that the rebels are led by a jihadist, an ISIS, Al-Qaeda type who's pretending to reform. I don't believe it. We thought that about Yasser Arafat, all those years ago. I don't believe it for a second. However, that doesn't mean it's the end of the story. One thing I have to say, we have to keep our weapons cocked and be prepared for anything. I think finally we're getting that picture.
I completely agree. And that really goes to a debate that we've been seeing, Shoshana, in our social media with some of our friends. I feel it. There's the camp that is like, let's wait and see, which is really what Trump is saying. Let's wait and see. Okay, this Al-Jalani is a jihadist. He came from ISIS. We're not talking about good guy A and good guy B,
Right.
Having said that, maybe this guy actually is exhausted from war, which is what he said his people are, is looking to unite that crazy tribal mosaic that is Syria. When you look at it,
seriously, nobody really understands that Syria is just made of
country.
Yeah.
Exactly. And maybe sometimes you do need a guy like that to do what he needs to do, and then perhaps step back, or maybe even in a dream reality become some type of democratic leader. He has a lot of momentum right now. How do you see things?
I feel very strongly that if this person just wants to fix his country, which is legitimate, meaning maybe he really felt, and not felt, Assad was a horrific monster.
Was.
Seeing those images of the prisons being opened and women and a toddler coming out and people who are no longer able to be human because of the conditions in which they've been kept. The man was a monster, and the country was held hostage, and the people deserve to be free.
Yes.
I do hope that that is the end of his ambition. If his ambition ends at Syria's borders with his own people, Sababa.
Well, he's got
God willing,
going on.
He's got a lot to take care of, and God willing, one day maybe we could take a train into Damascus. I'm saying I'm fine with that. But, and I will say basically what Ruthie said, which is if we don't hold our ground, our lines, and let people know these are our new rules. If you step one toe over here, we will obliterate your whole foot. I'm fine with that. I'm good with that. And I don't mind that we've taken the other part of the Khermon. I'm okay that we're in the buffer zone in Syria. I would not be okay with us going in and taking over and, like some people want to take over. I don't think anyone really wants to take over Syria. But we do have to protect our borders. We do have to make sure that he will never be a threat to us. And I think that is 100% valid as well.
And that the armaments that they have, a lot of them, weapons of mass destruction, chemical.
Well, happy.
In the interview, I interviewed a friend of mine, Zaim al-Salum, who is a Syrian, really dissident. Now he's, I guess, a free Syrian. and that interview will be coming out on the Quad on JNS. You know, he's like, Israel doing this helps Syria because those weapons of mass destruction have been used against the Syrian people.
100%.
So by Israel taking out the chemical plant, that is helping us.
It helps all decent people. Syrian, Israeli, Lebanese, like those weapons, whether they're airplanes, whether they're chemicals, whether they're Navy ships, cannot be in the hands of terrorists. It's very simple, whether it's Assad as a terrorist or whether it's other jihadis as terrorists. They needed to be destroyed, and I'm extremely glad that our government did that.
You know, it's almost like, Ruthie, you were talking about this shift. Do you remember a year and a half ago, we couldn't do anything about a tent that Hezbollah had put on the border encroaching on our
We had no
territory?
will to do it.
No
we
will.
could have, and we didn't.
A tent. And today it's like we are actually respecting our own red lines.
Yeah.
Which for a long
not only
time-
a tent, a couple was killed on the road in the north, and we didn't do anything about it.
Absolutely.
There was so much we didn't do about. We didn't do
were
week
like
after week on the Gaza border. Riots, fire bombs.
But I think that was part of the Hamas strategy to kind of lower our defenses.
It was.
Pushing all the time to see what they could get away with. And because we wanted to buy quiet, we kind of kept taking it and taking it and taking it. And that's why
We invited this.
We invited this by not respecting our own red lines.
Totally agree. And throughout that time, I was going crazy over this. Oh, speaking of another disappointment I had over Lebanon, while the whole war in Gaza was going on, maybe you've forgotten this, but Hezbollah, while it was firing rockets and everything, the whole north was burning. Was on fire.
On fire.
And I remember saying, what are we doing? We're not doing anything. We're not doing. I was going crazy. And I was told by, different people, well, we have too many troops in the south. We can't tackle both fronts. But I said, it doesn't matter. We're allowing our enemies to see our entire north burning. And I said, we've lost our sovereignty. I was screaming over it. Now, look what's happened in Lebanon. That's what I mean about taking a breath, because while that was going on, it was day after day after day, more missiles, more fires, more people in bomb shelters. And I was saying, how can we live with ourselves?
Ruthie, I have a question. And this is, do you think that us taking it and taking it and taking it allowed us then to come full force? Meaning if we had responded right away, would people have been able to say, what? There was just a few fires. How could you do such a thing?
Could we have killed Nasrallah?
I'm wondering if...
Did we have the legitimacy?
I think you're absolutely right. Now, I hate the word legitimacy because we're always saying, well, we wouldn't have had legitimacy. And by the way, Netanyahu and his team said that in the very beginning of the war. They said, we knew 10 years ago that Hamas was ISIS. And I remember saying to someone who works with Netanyahu, don't say that. If you knew 10 years ago it was ISIS, where have you been? So, well, we wouldn't have had legitimacy inside Israel or with the international community. And I said, never mind what I said, because I cursed, and I'm not going to do that on your program.
I know, Ruthie.
But I'll tell you, you're absolutely right. But it was more complicated than that, and I hadn't realized it.
No, it's not about hard to watch it in real time.
It was also because there's two things. We were afraid of Hezbollah and Iran. Now, what do I mean by afraid? The army, all these years, and the Israeli people, I remember also saying to people, we've got to go after Hezbollah. And they said, no, but then people in Tel Aviv, all over Israel, will be living in our bomb shelters. They'll kill hundreds or thousands of us.
They're going to be bringing down the towers of Tel Aviv.
Exactly.
Do you remember?
They are going to kill all of us. And I had this argument with someone. I said, well, if that's what it takes, we have to live in bomb shelters, we will. But this was an argument. People actually believed that. And why haven't we attacked Iran? We can't. They'll nuke us. They'll this. And then it turns out, boom. Notice how easy it was in the end for what we did in Iran. I mean, Iran turned out to be a lot less powerful, other than the nukes.
Yes.
I mean, what I'm saying, no, because they haven't fired the nukes. I mean, their Air Force, their air defenses were they were no match for us. But we were so afraid. The world.
I've always said, I've got to tell you, I've always said that I thought Iran was a paper tiger. I always have. But Hezbollah wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't a paper
wasn't.
tiger. Iran has always been a paper tiger. Why do we know that? Because they've been empowering and arming their proxies
Right.
to do their dirty work.
Right.
While they stayed pretty in their ivory tower,
Yeah.
letting everybody we joke, fighting for Iran to the last Arab. They're not Arabs, they don't care. So that was Iran.
Exactly.
Empowering everybody else to fight their dirty wars.
That's right.
So I always actually did think they were a paper tiger. I always did think they were old. I mean, where they getting their, they haven't got technology like we do. We've been really pulling down their pants with a nuclear program for 10, 15 years. We haven't, people don't even know how we've pushed back that program. But Hezbollah was more scary because they had 150,000 missiles pointing our way.
And not just missiles.
Not just
The
missiles.
Hezbollah fighters. If you think Hamas committed atrocities on October 7th, wow, everyone says, it ain't nothing compared to these guys. And we are just lucky, or I don't know what, God protected us.
We know about the tunnels on the north. Did we know about it? Did we really?
Excuse me. We did. And our defense minister at the time, Bogi Ya'alon, who today is Mr. I'm a radical leftist.
Yeah.
He was told, people in the north said, we hear clanging under our homes.
They did.
And they said, we investigated. No, you're
They
here.
were asking my question. Or they knew about it, but they pretended they didn't? Or
Well,
There were talks about it.
let's put
People
it this
were
way.
talking about it.
Let's put it this way. People who lived in the north were certain. They
that I know.
Did the army know, or some of them looked the other way? That's a good question. But one thing I can say is that we are lucky that they didn't join in on October 8th with
without
a
question.
cross-border.
Without
They
question.
would have. So why they didn't, it's kind of mysterious because they could have. And then we really would have been
I
defenseless.
agree with you. I think that I asked Jonathan Spire about it, who I had a really eye-opening interview. He's an incredible Arabist, works in the Middle East Forum. And he said something interesting, which I think we see and we repeat, and I guess we can see it repeated through history. Our enemies always underestimate us because they really believe that because we are an outpost of Western liberal democracy, our bellies are soft. And we don't have the stomach for war. We don't, and that October 7th would have shocked us so much to the core, which it did, that it would have just defeated us. They don't understand the spirit of resilience, A, and B, we got nowhere else to go.
where are we going?
But what Jonathan says is that the Hezbollah, they wanted to show they were joining in, but they also like this war of attrition with us.
They didn't want us
test us
destroying
that far.
their launchers.
Because you know what?
And, yeah.
Because they knew that this could happen. And it did.
Right.
And it did because they didn't stop. They could have stopped at any point.
That's right.
And we would have probably said, okay, Hezbollah is quiet for the time being. We would have adopted the same philosophy, by the way, but they went too far. Again, because they kept underestimating us.
I wonder if it's actually part of the whole let's wait, let's make them think we're not going to respond. Like, I wonder if it was not only waiting for the legitimacy, but also to what Hamas did to us.
Lull them.
So they would think we weren't ready to
You're
go.
right. You know why I hope you're right? Because that would mean that we were being clever and
Strategic and not just Israeli.
and also think, yes. And I hope you're right. There's a lot of times when I say, you know what, if it weren't for God, who knows what happened? I mean, I hope you're right that we were calculating like that.
Thinking,
Sometimes I don't believe that we are, because sometimes I think we should be calculating things like that, and we don't. But I can't say. I have to say October 7th really did cause a tectonic shift in the Israeli psyche.
Pager thing was set up way before that. So
it was genius, right? So we
know that there was some sort of plan, and we know where every one of these workers are.
Yes.
That's right.
I don't understand. The car, boom. The office,
exactly.
How do we know?
You know,
exactly.
That's actually very interesting.
That's exactly right.
The question is, why do we know so much then? Why
and not in
so little? And one of the answers that I got actually from Seth Fransman, who wrote a book about October 7th, I interviewed him for his new book. He said the difference is that in Gaza, we got a bit lazy with human intelligence.
Yeah.
First of all, Sinwar's whole mission was to get rid of collaborators. He did that very brutally, but at the same time, we thought technology could replace people.
Yeah,
of course. Gaza.
That was the
we had
big
technological fence.
Yep.
We had the technological stuff. We were hearing them, but we weren't hearing them. Whereas what this has shown is that there's no replacement for real human intelligence. By the way, which is what we had in the North.
Right. And by the way, it was worse than that we depended on technology, because even when the technology worked, and even when we had people sitting in front of the machines or the computers. They saw the information and they ignored it, or they didn't interpret it properly, or they didn't pass it on to their superior.
No way. You're talking about
the
Taspitonio, they did their job.
They did. The field observers did their job. When they passed it on, they were ignored. So that was also because of arrogance and many things.
And misogyny, Ruth.
And misogyny, I'm sure it is, yes. But it wasn't just that. We also, I feel, remember the SIM cards. Yes. It was our intelligence operation to flood Gaza with Israeli SIM cards so that if they lit up, we would know that Hamas was coming in.
And then we did nothing.
They all lit up, 100, 200 lit up simultaneously at 6 a.m. on October 7th. They lit up.
And nobody
the
did
machine,
anything
we put them in there for that purpose. They all lit up. And it was like, they didn't notice.
This was
the amount of screw ups. Yes. So yes, the field
layers,
observers that people should go, spend life in prison for what happened to those field observers. But now I'm talking about even. So the question is, was the person who was supposed to monitor the screens with the SIM cards asleep, or did he see them and not understand? That's what this means. We don't really
disbelief. It was, in my opinion, it was like disbelief.
I think
they'll never do it.
But I think it's also confirmation bias.
Yes, confirmation bias.
When you have
that's right.
When you are sure of whatever is happening, that is what you think has to happen. Anything you hear, even to the contrary, somehow
justify it to yourself.
Your point.
Yeah,
exactly. Right. And this is why, yes, Netanyahu is also to blame, but the whole infrastructure of national security to blame, because consensus was from the top to the bottom that you could buy quiet in Gaza and that they didn't have any interest in attacking from the top to the bottom.
That's
it was consensus.
It was everywhere. They all thought that, but not just that it's better. Look, I can't even calculate how close to October 7th this was. But I remember, Benny Gantz had said he was giving 17,000 more work permits to Gazans. And this, every leader.
Remember the fence riots?
Yes.
They would send people to the fence regularly and made it look like the fence kept them in.
And our attorney general, our courts, but here's where our judicial system also needs to go to jail. That is because any soldier who would shoot at those rioters along the border fence while they were, sending dangerous balloons with incendiary, burning tires. Anybody who shot would be arrested, court-martialed, then taken to court. Then the Supreme Court says you can't do it. Listen, this is not new. This is not new. When my kids went off to the army, and I'm talking about 20 years ago, I remember saying to them, listen, I would rather, visit you in prison than in a graveyard, because it was, in those years, even you had to go into battle with a law book in your hand.
They tied your hands behind your back.
And
and in the end, how does the international legal community thank us? They don't.
They don't. On the contrary.
Don't. So if you're only going to get maligned,
that's right.
You might as well be alive, like Golda Meir
said.
Well,
exactly. And so the point is that the legal system made it impossible, and this made it, and there's so many different levels here of this. But one fascinating thing about all this, one of the things that Sinwar said is he saw that our society was fighting in the streets.
Soft belly.
And this might be a good opportunity. Now, what's interesting is that Natan Sharansky recently gave a talk and said, what was amazing about October 7th is that we were not sure that our young people were actually up to this.
Up to it.
All of them with their video games and their raves, like at the Nova Fest. All of these young people
in the iPhone generation,
the iPhone generation, the sushi generation, the let's all just love and live and free this and free and do raves. And we weren't sure that they had what it took, that they had grown soft. And he said, and the opposite happened. Our young generation, that's what we call in Hebrew, Dor HaNitzachon, the victory generation. It was suddenly this explosion of dedication,
Patriotism, love
heroism.
Yeah.
Well, that's who we are in the end.
That's who we are. And let me just tell you, and I've just been on a tour of 2 different, coast to coast in America. All I can tell you is that I don't think there's one country on earth where the young people, as young as 18, 19, would die for their country the way that we've seen this generation do. And for that, we are safer than everybody else.
And unfortunately, by the way, speaking of that in America, because I also, when I'm there, I see young people and talk to them and we see the campuses. It's not only that we're doing it and we need it for our survival. They don't even realize how much it has an impact on their survival. And not only Jews. This is also for the West, but especially Jews. The Jewish students who, think that, well, we don't like those pictures coming out of Gaza because you don't look like good guys. Sometimes I really say, I'm going to get violent myself if I hear one more comment like that from a Jew, okay? You want to hear it from a, Palestinian Hamas lover at Harvard, that's one thing. But
because they don't know. They don't know. They live in absolute comfort where the discomfort is the food doesn't come on time when I ordered it from my mommy's credit card. I'm sorry. I've said this before, but it's just the truth. This is this generation.
Neighbor take their Amazon package.
Yes. But yes, this is why this generation is so special, because we really have a purpose, which is like the Viktor Frankl saying, we have a purpose, which means that with all of this and all the tragedy that we've been through, and I think with that we'll finish the discussion part, we're still the second happiest country in the world.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
That's amazing.
God knows. Okay, ladies, for our favorite, almost therapeutic part of the program, Scumbag of the Week. Okay, never a lack. Unfortunately, Ruthie, as this is your first Scumbag of the Week, even though you have been calling them out your whole life, but maybe not in this context. Ruthie, who's your scumbag this week?
That's right. I'd like to say, Fleur, that most of the scumbags I would like to announce, I can't do it in this context.
I know.
So we'll leave it. We'll leave it off. But there are plenty to go around.
Yes.
My scumbag of this week is President Joe Biden. Now, keeping in mind that I have to say, just on his behalf, I would say, is that Joe Biden clearly suffers from dementia, as everybody knows. So what I'm about to say, I have to say I can't really attribute it to him completely because he gave a speech and clearly he did not write the speech. He could barely deliver it and you could barely understand what he was saying. So when I say Joe Biden, I just mean Team Biden, whoever that is, that whole group that were hiding his dementia and then also ousted him and stuck Kamala Harris in as the candidate. Okay, so why am I calling that scumbag this week? In response to Syria and what happened in Syria, he got up and basically took credit for it. He said, look, Hezbollah is weakened, Russia's weakened, Iran is weakened, Syria, and this enabled them. He also said what we said, that we have to wait and see, if they're who these rebels are and if they're good guys, we'll help them, etc. That's all fine.
For years, the main backers of Assad have been Iran, Hezbollah, and Russia. But over the last week, their support collapsed, all 3 of them, because all 3 of them are far weaker today than they were when I took office. For the first time ever, neither Russia, nor Iran, nor Hezbollah could defend this abhorrent regime in Syria. And this is a direct result of the blows that Ukraine, Israel, have delivered upon their own self-defense with unflagging support of the United States.
He dared to take credit when the Biden administration throughout this war has tied Israel's hands one time and again. Did he once say, wow, we were wrong to say that you shouldn't go into Rafah because we told you were going to kill too many people and it was too crowded? Did he once say, wow, we didn't want you to go into Lebanon and attack Hezbollah. We didn't want you to first not to launch a ground invasion in Gaza. One thing after the other, until finally Israel said, listen, we're going to have to fight with our fingernails if you keep withholding weapons. We'll do it however we have to do it. So now Biden gets up and says the United States can take credit for something that he acknowledges is very important and very good for the world. Well, that's why he's my scumbag of the week.
Wow. Well, look, you're not wrong. And I think that it's not, like you said, like you qualified, it's not him. It's the Obama people that run his White House and have been running it all along. And in fact, a few weeks ago, when before the election in America, when we killed, who did we kill? When we killed Sinwar, Kamala Harris gets up and takes credit for that too. Do you remember that?
Oh, that's right. Oh, by the way, and they didn't want us to kill Nasrallah.
No, they didn't.
They didn't. Oh, and one more thing that I forgot to add to this. While this is all going on throughout this war, the Biden administration continued to support a two-state solution. With whom exactly? The Palestinian Authority, and constantly saying that the day after Gaza, the Palestinian Authority should take control of Gaza. So, yes, so it's not only, the chutzpah is
the chutzpah of stopping us from actually doing
and then taking
credit for when it's done.
Exactly.
I'm with you, 100%, Ruthie. Shoshana, who's your scumbag this week?
My scumbag this week is Ireland.
Oh,
good.
Yes.
They really selling.
I feel like they've been scumbags before.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're old stuff. I think the president, we've made him, maybe the old president, and then switched, I think.
Well, there's nothing new going on in Ireland because Ireland has requested to legally intervene in South Africa's case against Israel in the international... ICJ, thank you. They want to legally intervene, be part of it.
Yes.
But in order to do so, they've requested that the ICJ broaden its interpretation of what constitutes the commission of genocide by a state. Because they know it ain't happening. So in order for them to actually...
They want to change the definition. Change the legal definition.
So they want to change the law so that they can blame us for
genocide.
Right,
for something we're not doing.
We currently don't fit the description of genocide, which is certain acts committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. And since we don't fit that, and they're mad about it, they want the definition to change so that they can blame Israel for something they're going to invent. What it means.
Yes.
So you're my scumbag, Ireland, because what's up with that?
Ireland have been disgraceful the whole time. And in the end, which is what happens to people who are constantly on our bad sides, they will have to lie on that bed that they are for themselves.
Oh, yes.
And if they love the Palestinian cause and the people so much, then why haven't they actually volunteered to take some refugees in? It's like all these other countries. They talk and they don't do anything. Ireland.
And do you remember when the Irish said about, it was the Irish leader said when Emily, who was released, she was a hostage.
That's when I made him the scumbag.
Irish citizenship.
The woman
said she was lost and she was 9 years old, right? 9.
Yes.
She was lost and thankfully she's found. That he wrote on Twitter and everywhere.
Oh, that sounds all right.
Lucy, I went on a BBC interview, BBC Ireland interview at the time, and it was me against 3 people. And I was showing exactly the same offense and disgust. They said to me, no, it's a paragraph from the New Testament about lost and found. I'm like, well, don't quote the New Testament to a bunch of Jews. Sorry.
Seriously, we ain't going to get it.
We didn't get it.
And by the way,
your audience.
And even the New Testament didn't mean that kind of thing.
Of course it didn't.
It didn't mean someone who was
captive
exactly.
was rescued.
And a little child.
Pretty much lost their way from Jesus.
A little girl.
Exactly. But anyway, all right. So my scumbag of the week is actually one of these perennial scumbags. But every time we bring them up, there's a different reason.
Okay.
The UN. Okay. The UN.
Yeah.
So why are they in my bad books this week? And I think any normal thinking person is because when the real action of the rebels and the opposition broke out, the border town that the UN have got another so-called peacekeeping force in Syria near the buffer zone with Israel. UNCOP or something like that it's called.
UNDOC, I think.
UNCOP.
Oh, UNDOF.
UNDOF. It really rolls off the tongue. So they've got UNIFIL completely useless in Lebanon and UNDOF in Syria. And they came under attack by 20 terrorists. And who saved their tuchuses?
The idea of...
We did. Israel did. Okay? We saved their tuchuses. Okay? They are there. They are completely useless, completely impotent. They don't know what they're doing, and they can't defend themselves. We go to the rescue. We save them, and then 2 days later, they're attacking us. They even have a resolution about us not going into Syria.
we are continuing to see Israeli movements and bombardments into Syrian territory. This needs to stop. Extremely important that we don't see any action from any international actor that destroys the possibility for this transformation in Syria to take place.
The theme of the day is the chutzpah of people who we save, who we do something positive for, to then attack us. I think that in Gen Z language it's called gaslighting, right? It's like all the time gaslighting us. We saved you, and now you're complaining that we were there to save you in the first place?
Well, like the UNIFIL troops in Lebanon,
Yes.
who were in cahoots with Hezbollah.
Yes.
And then when, some troops got hurt because they were right next to a Hezbollah outpost, which they...
Tunnels, I believe. Weren't they next
No, but
to tunnels?
also a
Yes.
kind of above ground outpost. And Israel said, everybody get out of the way because we need to bomb. And then some UNIFIL people didn't. But again, they were helping. At best, look the other way, they were in bed with them. And then they attack us. They accuse us of targeting UNIFIL soldiers.
Well, that's the thing that I'm
It's endless.
to think that,
It's endless.
that the UN has really, apart from the fact that we know for a long time they've lost their moral compass, they're a whitewashing agency for dictatorships. They get really bought out by
money laundering.
worse people.
Oh, yeah.
They go and they sanction Netanyahu, and then they go and to Putin like he's the savior. They're disgusting. And all of their so-called peacekeeping, they don't do any peacekeeping forces, are simply in the way or in cahoots with the bad guys.
Yeah.
UN, you've really, I think, finished your mandate. And maybe there is time to think about a new construct over there in terms of the global order of things, because you really have failed in
Every way.
single of your own stated missions. You're my scumbag again, UN. All right, and just to finish, just to zen it out.
Zen it out. Now we want some good news.
Now we need some good vibes.
Good vibes.
Some good vibes. Heroes, and there's always plenty of heroes. With all the scumbags, there's always plenty of heroes. Shoshana, who's your hero this week?
My hero this week is the IDF. I know that I've definitely done this before, but specifically for two particular reasons in Syria. Number one is destroying the weapons of mass destruction, the chemical weapons, the vehicles that could transport these weapons to harm every decent person in the Middle East.
In Syria specifically.
Yeah. Specifically in Syria and outward if it got in the wrong hands. The airplanes, the ships, the weapons themselves. I mean, we took out, I don't even know how many and how much weaponry was taken out by the IDF, which is only a good thing. I am so glad that we chose to do that.
Navy,
Yeah, I know. They're just like basically one big junk shop in Syria right now.
Yes, right.
That's first of all. But second of all, what they also did at the same time was reached out to the Syrian people and offered help.
I did know
Because there's, I'll send it in the letter, but basically all along the border, they're in economic distress because there's nothing reaching them because of the war, because of the upheaval. And the IDF, if you remember, we had the Operation Good Neighbor during the Syrian war, and we did help Syrian
so many people.
We saved their lives. We gave them aid. And they're basically reaching out to those contacts and to their Druze contacts and saying, we will help you. We want to be your allies. And this to me is what we're all about. We take out the bad so that people can't get hurt. And when people are willing, we offer our hand out to help. And I'm pleased, proud, and honored to be part of this. It's the IDF and Israel are my heroes this week for this reason.
Beautiful.
That is beautiful.
I didn't know the second part.
Right, and well deserved. Yes, they do really agree that they deserve it.
God bless you, our boys and girls over there.
That's right.
Oh, God bless you. Ruthie, good vibes. Well, who's our hero this week?
My hero this week is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Shocker, Ruthie.
So off brand.
Actually, may I say, Fleur, to some people it is a shocker, people who know me, because...
You've been critical that he's not right-wing enough.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly. In fact, somebody asked me, listen, if you weren't a long-time Likudnik, if you hadn't voted Likud all these years, and if you had a second choice at this point, if you hadn't, I said, well, then religious Zionism. And they said, what? But you're not religious. And I said, well, who else would I? Name me somebody else who even comes close. And so, okay. So that's why people who, for me to say that Benjamin Netanyahu is my hero is actually surprising to some people. I say it because what I have witnessed one by one throughout the war, as we spoke about before, about Syria.
Yeah.
From the time of October 7th, and the reason I want to talk about from the time is that there is a big debate about what caused October 7th and who was asleep on the job, and that it's the political echelon, the army, the everything. But let's leave that aside. From October 7th. And each time I doubted Netanyahu's plans, I was proven wrong. And this last week, I have watched, not just me, but this is what I'm observing, that this has been a game of amazing three-dimensional chess, that I was upset with the ceasefire in Lebanon, and then I see how the rebels in Syria took advantage of that, and how Iran is weakened, and how I'm sure Netanyahu is in touch with Trump, who's about to become president, about Iran. We don't know exactly what they've talked about, but I'm assuming. And everything that's all of these moving pieces on the chessboard. Now, this is while we have drones from Yemen, from the Houthis in Yemen, Iraqi militias. Now, we still haven't finished Lebanon. There's Hezbollah.
Yeah.
We have the Syria strife going on there that could be dangerous. We still have Iran. We have Gaza. And to top all of those off, we have Judea and Samaria, all the terrorists in Judea and Samaria.
That last night killed a young boy.
A 10-year-old boy.
Yeah.
So you've got all these fronts. And then to top that all off, you have an internal war against Netanyahu himself. While this is all going on, he is on trial.
Yeah.
He is being vilified by the media. He is being attacked by the international community. There's an arrest warrant out for him and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. With all of those pressures and all of that, handling the war, dealing with fallen soldiers and all the hostages, he's got to get those hostages out, because without that, this whole country will never recover. And we all feel that. The debate is only on what's the best way to do it. And it's terrible. It's tearing apart the hostage families as well. But I watch him. The courts would not allow him even to postpone his testimony. By the way, in the defense, this is finally the defense witnesses coming. It's not even the prosecution. And he says, just give me a couple of months. No. And then it was just give me one more day because I have business to take care of. Nope.
It's actually kind of ridiculous.
He is being pummeled from every direction and leading the country to what I see as an amazing victory. We're not there yet.
No.
But I think he deserves credit.
I will agree with you that I think that it was shocking to me to see him on trial this week in the middle of a war. Like nobody's going anywhere. He could have done this in 2 months. He could have done this. And for the first time, Ruthie, I'm hearing in Israel voices that you would consider more left-wing.
Also
saying that this is ridiculous.
Well, just a counterpoint, because this is my job.
Please, go ahead.
I think there are a lot of people who believe that Bibi is continuing the war to stay away from the trial. So if he is on trial, right, then you can separate those two things. Meaning, I would like to believe that this war is being run, like you say, strategically and a chessboard, and not to further his political career. But there are people who really believe that he's schlepping it out so that he doesn't go on trial. So maybe if he goes on trial, gets that done, people will stop saying and will have more confidence in his offering of
for another 2 years. It makes no
maybe.
difference.
But he's only testifying now, right?
By the way, but that's because they spent all these years on the prosecution witnesses, most of whom ended up being defense witnesses.
Yes, that's true.
The whole thing. By the way, when you tell people outside of the country what this trial is about, 3 cases,
they laugh.
All involving the media coverage, media this, washing your hands with. It's like. What?
And champagne.
Right. But aside from all that, I'm saying aside from what it was, I mean, obviously, if you were a mass murderer, I wouldn't be saying this, obviously.
A rapist.
Like the president. Exactly.
Like President Assad.
Exactly. But the point is, if he had been a rapist and a mass murderer, he wouldn't have been reelected 2 years ago. My point actually is that the kind of white collar, and he really does have to lead the country, and everybody knows it. And right now, it's at a crucial moment, and he's not going anywhere. And he even said, and this I do believe, he said, "I'm not trying to get out of this. I've waited all this time just to tell my story, because this is now the defense's case." So, and I do believe that, because he could have made a plea deal and all that, but he didn't want to, because what they were trying to do is get him to say, "Okay, if you agreed to step down, we'll erase the charges," which already shows you how bogus the charges are, because charges should not matter. If you raped somebody, it doesn't matter if you make a plea deal to step down. Okay, I'll step down, and therefore I'm not a rapist. No. So the point though is, I consider that another front in Netanyahu's war, and it takes I don't know, nerves of steel or something.
It takes nerves of steel. Honestly, it takes nerves of steel
to be able to do all
that. Or hate him, but honestly, the man has got 200 skins.
And also, by the way, I'd like to say this, and I'll say this about Trump as well. I think too many people have this personality cult thing. Both they love a leader or they hate him.
True.
It's like, well, I couldn't vote for Trump because I hate him, or I want Bieber. I love Trump. I love Bieber. I said, right. Leave it alone. What about policies? Policies, administration, teams. What are they doing? I don't love them. First of all, I don't know them personally well enough. Yeah. Love them or not love them. Second of all, anybody who gets to that high position, and I don't care who it is, and we like to compare him to Churchill. Some people do. Compare him to Churchill. No, some people do compare him. But I'm saying, even Churchill, you cannot become that person by being this really nice guy. Yeah, you're just a lovely, nice guy.
No, real.
You need to have what it takes, whether you like it or not. So I don't like the personality cult, and that's why I don't like when someone calls me a bibistit. I don't care, because I'm used to being called names. I'm used to being called names, but I think it's not actually, it doesn't quite describe me.
No, I agree. You're a critical thinker, and
I say I'm a right winger. I'm a right winger.
You're an ideological right winger, and this man, basically, you're right. He's been attacked by all sides and every side, and he's still plowing through. That really,
as long as he does what's best for this country, I don't care.
That's what he's doing. I believe that's what he's doing.
Shut up. I'm 100% with you. Okay, change of tact. My hero this week is the president of Paraguay, called Santiago Peña, who is in Israel, and I will be meeting today, because he's moving the Paraguayan embassy to Jerusalem.
Wow.
Which makes it the 6th country with their embassy in Jerusalem, which is important because you know why, people? Because we have had Jerusalem as a capital for 3,000 years. And we reunited our capital in 1967. In any future peace deal that you can possibly imagine, Jerusalem will remain the capital of Israel and the Jewish people. And that's why there is no reason why all of the embassies should not be in Jerusalem. And it's ridiculous that they're not. But some good people do recognize that.
Yes.
And Paraguay has, as well as the United States, as well as Guatemala, Kosovo, the Czech Republic, also Honduras, Papua New Guinea. I can name them all. The Slovaks also have something here, and so do the Hungarians. But actual embassies, we have a few, but very important ones. And today we add another one to that list.
Congratulations.
It's a great idea. And by the way, let me just add that when they do that, it's also at risk to their reputations internationally.
Absolutely.
So yes, they're doing the right thing, but you know what? It comes with a price.
They pay the price.
And that's why they especially deserve it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
They're heroes because they all pay a price.
Yes.
When America started the ball rolling, they said to Trump, it's going to be a third world war. Everything is going to... And what happened? Nothing. Because you know what? People respect people who respect themselves. And that's the bottom line. And that's why this week, Paraguay, you're my heroes.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Paraguay. Okay, ladies, this has been a really wonderful episode.
It has. I so much appreciated coming on your
We've
show.
been meaning to have you for a while.
You know, I've been watching it religiously. I'm so happy to be here.
And you co-host the Ladies of the Quad. And what we are going to be doing towards the end of the year, we get a lot of messages always, and our audience loves to participate and always send us different recommendations for Scumbags of the Week, so Heroes of the Week. And this end of year, we're going to have a special episode doing the top 10 scumbags of the year. And you are going to get to decide who those scumbags are. They don't necessarily have to be ones that we've mentioned. You can take any ones that you want and write to this email. What is it, Shoshana?
quadscumbags@gmail.com.
Quadscumbags, plural, @gmail.com. Please send in
Nominate your scumbags.
Nominate your scumbags today, and we will be having a very special New Year
I'm excited for that one. Can we bring eggnog for that?
episode. Michael Rappaport, our very good friend, says we're going to crunch the numbers. Yes, we are, Michael. We're going to crunch the numbers and we're going to see who the top 10 scumbags are. And we look forward to hearing your recommendations. And as we do every week, we pray that by the time next week comes, our hostages will be home with their families. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for watching.